Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome back to a brand new video, but before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord that is linked down in the description. But in today's video, I will be talking about how the Democrats can retake the Senate majority in 2022. Now this is mostly working off of the assumption that both David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler do win their runoff elections, which I see as a likely scenario. It's not for sure and it's not certain, but it is a likely scenario, I do believe, and it is working based off of that assumption. David Perdue will not be up for re-election in 2022, but Kelly Loeffler actually would be, assuming she wins her election. But I will be analyzing the path for the Democrats to retake the Senate majority, assuming that the Senate after 2020 is 52 Republicans and 48 Democrats, which would happen if Republicans win those two seats in the state of Georgia. So now basically filling off the seats that will certainly not go to the opposite party, or will certainly go in a certain way, and those are first for the Republican parties: Idaho, Utah, Alaska, most likely. Lisa Murkowski, I can't see her losing, especially not to a Democrat. South Dakota, North Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri. Roy Blunt didn't win by much in 2016, but Missouri is quite a Republican state. Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana. I won't fill out Ohio, but that's very likely not going to go to the Democratic Party. Same thing with Iowa. If Chuck Grassley runs, he'll win easily, but I doubt he'll run again. He is quite old, but we will just have to see. And then for the Democrats, they will win Washington, Oregon, California. I'll put Colorado in that column. Actually, since I didn't put Ohio and Iowa there, I won't put Colorado there. Illinois, as well as New York, Vermont, Connecticut, and Maryland. So after those seats, and one more is the state of Hawaii. So after those seats, if we just make Loeffler's seat a toss-up seat, because she'll be actually in trouble in 2022 if she wins her election this year. So after those seats, Republicans are effectively guaranteed 45 seats. Democrats are guaranteed 44 seats. Now, looking at the seats that are, most likely going to go to either party, that includes a state like Colorado, for example. You've got Michael Bennet, who won quite convincingly in 2016. I think he'll be able to win again. And then for the Republicans, Iowa and Ohio, I think, are two seats that they'll win very easily. Rob Portman, if he decides to run again, probably will win by a safe margin, to be honest. But I'll just put in likely just for this. Chuck Grassley, if he runs, he'll win by a safe margin. But I doubt he'll run. So that's an open seat. But Iowa is an increasingly Republican state, and I do expect Republicans to win that state quite easily. As well as Florida. I do expect the Republican Party to win Florida quite easily. Marco Rubio is a good candidate, and looking at the performance that Trump got, winning by 3.5 percentage points in the state of Florida, Marco Rubio can actually improve in Miami-Dade County, possibly even win Miami-Dade County, plus doing better in some of those suburban areas. Also, you're basing it off the fact that this year will probably be a more Republican-leaning year, because looking historically, that's the way it's always been, or not always. There are exceptions like 2002 and 1998, but historically, you have usually had wave years after the incumbent president has just, their first midterm after they've been sworn in. But one interesting thing is that never in our history have we had a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Republican Senate. Does that imply anything? Not really, but, we will see how that turns out. But I am expecting a more Republican-leaning electorate. So that really comes down to, I guess, seven more of these, somewhat toss-up districts. And if the Democrats are going to want to regain the Senate majority, they're going to have to win all of the seats where they do currently have incumbents. That includes Nevada with Catherine Cortez Masto. That includes Arizona with Mark Kelly. That includes the state of New Hampshire as well, and if they can win those three seats, they will tie with the Republicans at 48 to 48. If we want to look at a state like New Hampshire, where you do have the current incumbent Maggie Hassan, who beat Kelly Ayotte in 2016 in a razor-thin margin, but it is a big possibility that Governor Chris Sununu will run for that seat in 2022. But, you want to look historically, Maggie Hassan was the governor of the state of New Hampshire Hampshire. She won quite easily, not as much as Chris Sununu did, but she won by a safe margin. She won easily. She ran against an incumbent Senator Kelly Ayotte, and she barely won. So, Chris Sununu, a similar situation. He was a governor, a popular governor that won quite easily, is now running for a Senate seat. Can he also beat an incumbent, especially in a state that voted for Joe Biden quite easily? Because, in 2016, Hillary Clinton barely won New Hampshire, but in 2020, Joe Biden won New Hampshire by quite a substantial margin, and it's quite difficult to beat incumbents. But I do believe that Democrats would not be favored at the moment if Chris Sununu does run, but they're going to have to win this seat if they want to win the Senate majority. It's basically a must. And that leaves you effectively 4 seats, where currently you have Republican senators representing these seats. You've got Ron Johnson in Wisconsin. You've got Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania, who's retiring. You've got Richard Burr in North Carolina, who is retiring. And you've got Kelly Loeffler in Georgia, who is likely going to win that seat. Ron Johnson could retire. He said he was going to retire, but then he said that he couldn't rule it out. So I'm just going to go off the assumption that he is running. So you have these 4 seats. I believe that the least likely seat for the Democrats to win is probably, to be honest, it's hard to tell. Maybe even North Carolina, to be honest. I mean, that's the seat that out of these 4 states, that's the only state that Joe Biden did not win. He also had the fact that Cal Cunningham could not win this year. Democrats don't have too good of a candidate. You do have Mark Walker, who has declared that he is running for the seat. You also had Laura Trump, who also, there was speculation that she was going to run. You also had speculation Pat McCrory, who was the former governor. The only scenario where I really see Democrats being able to win this seat is if they maybe run Roy Cooper, the current incumbent governor, but I doubt he would want to run, because if he does win the election, Democrats lose the governor's mansion because the lieutenant governor in this race was won by a Republican. So I do believe that, at least for now, that does favor the Republican Party. I also believe Kelly Loeffler's seat will be more favorable to the Republican Party, purely because of the fact that it is, again, going to be a more Republican-leaning year, most likely. So even though Kelly Loeffler is an absolutely awful candidate with a lot of flaws, she does do a little bit better in the suburbs, and that can aid her, especially in this runoff, but also in the future in years like 2022. And I do expect that to aid her. But Democrats, I think, out of those 4 seats, the easiest is certainly going to be the state of Pennsylvania. Democrats do have a number of good candidates that they could run for the Pennsylvania seat. You have a lot of potential Republican candidates, but you also have a lot of potential Democratic candidates, and this depends on a lot. One of the things that it depends on is the way that the redistricting works. Every 10 years they redraw the districts, and if they redraw the districts in a certain way that maybe gets rid of a Democratic representative, maybe Chrissy Houlihan, maybe Matthew Cartwright, which is less likely, but that's possible. Maybe someone else in the Democratic Party, maybe Susan Wild in Pennsylvania's 7th congressional district. We could see one of those candidates run for Senate. We could also see Connor Lamb run for Senate. You could see Joe Sestak, who was Pat Toomey's opponent in 2010. We could see Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, who I think would be a great candidate for that race. So Democrats do have a lot of good candidates to run for the seat. And sure, the Republicans have good candidates too. You could have someone like Guy Rushenthaler, the congressman. You could have someone like Brian Fitzpatrick, who I think would do very well. He was one, Biden probably won his district by around 5 percentage points, but he won by like 13 percentage points. He was a very good congressman in terms of being able to win in his district. But I do believe that seat would actually favor the Democrats as of now, but it is a seat that Democrats are going to have to win. Wisconsin is another seat. You do have speculation that some Democrats are going to run. Let's see if it does list it here. It does say Tom Nelson filed the statement of candidacy as a Democrat, but there's also some speculation that Mark Pecan, who is the congressman from the Milwaukee area, was actually going to run for that seat. And I do believe that would be an interesting race. He would do well in his district in the Milwaukee area. Maybe would be able to turn out voters better, but running against an incumbent is going to be quite difficult. But if the Democrats do want to win the Senate, that is going to be a seat that they will have to win. And so if they were able to hold on to all of their incumbent seats and then flip the state of Pennsylvania, which would be an open seat, and then beat Ron Johnson, the incumbent, then they would have 50 seats in the Senate, and Kamala Harris could break the tiebreaker in the Senate on votes of judicial nominees, cabinet appointees, legislation using reconciliation that only needs 51 votes or 50 votes. And so that's a path for the Democrats to the Senate majority. If they have a really good night, sure, they could win North Carolina. Sure, they could win Georgia. They could get to 52 seats. Maybe they've even won the runoff this year and they have that seat. That'll be a seat they have to defend. But the Democratic Senate majority is actually a very real possibility after 2022. And a take that I've been seeing swirling around that I actually agree with is that Democrats actually have a better chance in 2022 of regaining the Senate, which they haven't had since 2014. They have a better chance of that than actually keeping the House, due to the fact that you're going to have most likely a wave year, which affects the House more than the Senate, plus the redistricting, which is probably going to favor the Republican Party most likely. We'll have to see how a lot of these maps turned out, but we will see. And so that is going to create a number of interesting developments in a lot of these races, and we will see it. I will be covering it. I'll be around hopefully in 2022 to cover a lot of these races, but it is going to be very interesting. A number of interesting races that there is to cover, and again, I will be covering those. So that is the pathway to the Senate majority for the Democratic Party. It's a narrow path, it's a tough path, but it is a possible path. I will also do this video for the Republicans as well to show how they could keep the Senate majority and, maybe even possibly take it if the runoffs do not go their way. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.